This is the Business Playbook.
Welcome to the Business Playbook with the founder of Recast, Andy Meikle. Andy takes us through his journey from founding Sport Lobster with partners like the NBA, the NFL and Cristiano Ronaldo, to coming back to the UK and rejecting a £3 million investment with only £80 in the bank, to launching a best-in-class sports tech platform here in Edinburgh with a team of 45 and working with some of the biggest sports rights holders on the planet. Now, Recast are dominating the sports tech scene with their revolutionary streaming platform. Recast are consistently voted one of the best places to work in the UK, and Andy really demonstrated why people love working for him when he was here on the night. Please subscribe to the channel, please drop us a comment below and let us know what you think, and please share this with your friends. Thanks, Jamie. We like to start every podcast with the same question, partly inspired by, partly stolen from the High Performance podcast.
Okay.
So I am a big believer that everybody's winging it and that nobody has actually got their shit together, as demonstrated by us today with our technical issues.
Yeah.
But you founded Sport Lobster, ended up with millions of users, partners like Cristiano Ronaldo, the NBA, NFL. Now, more recently, you founded Recast. You've got a team of 45, probably one of the best offices in Edinburgh. Most recently valued at 60 million. It's a streaming platform powered by micropayments. Do you have your shit together?
Winging it.
like
every day is there's a new challenge, and so obviously with all those sort of challenges you go through, despite there being new ones, you can take that experience into overcoming them. But there's still stuff that's new every day, and sometimes you gotta wing it.
Brilliant. And we've got some of your team in here tonight, I think, as well. So that's brilliant to have the
exactly. They already know that. Brilliant.
So interesting story. You are the second guest of the Business Playbook that's pied my job application. And by the way, you're not even the last. There's another to come. But
have you applied for that job yet?
I applied for that.
Okay.
So I've been in touch with you for a couple of years. We've been aware of each other. We've kept in touch. But I was recently speaking to Sean, the guy who comes along, and he says, it's interesting that you keep inviting these people that applied you for jobs. And I was like, there's a reason for that. I was like, because I'm inviting people who I'm interested in speaking to.
Thank you.
I would obviously apply for jobs at companies that I'm interested in. So that's where it goes. But when I walked out the Recast office after my interview, I was like, it wasn't with you, it was one of your team. And I walked out and I was like, that is my job. I was like, if I want that job, that is my job. I was like, it's done. I'll wait and see. And then I found out I didn't get it. And I was like, what? And then my mate
He's going
Dave,
to grill me tonight, isn't he? He's going to absolutely grill me.
So then my mate Dave sends me a message and he's like, here's a link to the profile of the woman who they've appointed into that job. And both of us at the exact same time went, fucking hell, she's wildly more qualified than me. Like, that was a good appointment. So well done.
Thanks very much.
Right, can we start with your early pre-startup life? So you're an Edinburgh guy?
Born in Edinburgh, to a Scottish father and a Chilean mother, but raised in Dubai.
Right, cool. How old were you when you were in Dubai?
No, I grew up in Dubai. Born here, but my parents were already living in Dubai, so I grew up in Dubai until I went to college in the US.
Right, cool.
I used to kick a ball about, and so I went to the US on a soccer scholarship, as they call it. Mm-hmm. I say soccer only because you'd be surprised how many times I say football, and people are like, what, like American football? And I'm like, I don't look like an American football player, so I was not going all the way across the world on an American football scholarship, I promise you that. I went to the US. I was there for 4 years. It was an amazing experience, and albeit at the age of 22, which is very late to try to go professional. Mm-hmm. I had a couple of clubs that were interested here in the UK, and the university had offered me a coaching job, but I had a couple of clubs that were interested, so I came back to the UK. I was down in London, injured my knee, and my professional career finished before it started. So then I went into the world of work.
And it's still in the world of sport at that point?
No, my first job was in recruitment in London. Actually, my job before that, so when I injured my knee, I was in at Fulham, and they operated on my knee, and I was going through rehab on my knee, and I wasn't on a contract, so I wasn't making any money. And a friend of mine that I grew up with, she's an actress and a dancer, and she was like, you know how you can make money and be pretty flexible is like you can go to an agency and you go and work at places like Debenhams and Harrods. So I was like, oh, that sounds all right. So fast forward a week, and I was selling Chanel in Harrods to the players that I was going in and seeing at Fulham Football Club, which was just very odd. But yeah, the manager, Sanchez at the time, got sacked, and Hodgson came in, and I was on contract, so I was out the door. And so I went into recruitment, and I learned a lot of great things in recruitment about how to pick up the phone and just call people and ask questions and move into, a zone where you might be sort of typically uncomfortable. So it was a great experience. And then I moved to Dubai, back to Dubai and worked for a company that I'd interned with, like I'd done work experience throughout the summers. And that was hospitality procurement. So you can see here, there's still nothing to do with sport or tech or anything, which was an interesting job. I was in charge of the UAE royal families, like private villas, and working with designers and suppliers around the world. So I learned how to use an Excel spreadsheet. And I quit that job on my 25th birthday and set out to start my first business, which was a general inquiry service. So still not in sport. And yeah, ran that for a couple of years.
You described that to me as like 118.
Yeah, it was like 118, 118. So it was actually like Google before like that was so readily available. So you just text the short code, which was 4644, and you could ask anything. Anything. And so we had like teams of people, and remember this is in Dubai, this is quite a few years ago as well, so some of them would come through and they're like, how do we deal with this? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. Like, I don't know
so
what we
manually answering the question?
Yeah, but...
So you were ChatGPT before ChatGPT?
That's right, yeah. I don't know if that's an insult or like it's a compliment. I mean, that's pretty like, but
did you make more sense than ChatGPT?
Yeah, we did, yeah. No, but it was the technology we developed had allowed every question that came through based on keywords, it was automatically putting them into categories, and then we're selling those categories. I mean, it's basically like Google. You'd search for something, and then there'll be some ads that appear. And if you text back in the day and ask the question, like for the phone number for Pizza Hut in the Marina area, for example, the number would come back. But then if Burger King paid for the advertising space, then the number would be back, and then it comes saying, or call Burger King and claim your 10% discount, and be their number cool. There. So, that was my first business, which I'd raised some initial funding from friends and family, and I was offered investment to continue growing that business at a time where it was weeks away from closing down, and I'd already started to think about what to do next, this fear of like, how am I going to make money, etc. And I'd been sitting on this frustration as a fan that accessing the content you want it was quite sort of spread across the. I think that was me. That's my calendar. Let me know that it's the kids' bedtime. I purposely block out an hour between 7 and 8 to not have calls, so that I can like try to give them my time. So
that's good. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But I set up. I had the idea for Sport Lobster, which was to bring together a personalized experience for fans where they could access, stats, news, scores. They could predict in private leagues or in public leagues with others. But ultimately, at the heart of it, they could socially interact with others. So you could jump into the Real Madrid fan zone or Lewis Hamilton fan zone and chat with others whilst having all that information available. So it might have been a bit of ahead of its time, but we did pretty well to build a following, and the way we did that, which is now known as a social media influencing strategy. I brought on board Michael Owen and Mark Webber, just was introduced to them for them to be ambassadors, and I would say to Michael, post something about the match yesterday and then tweet about it with a link. And he did it, and we're like, oh shit, we got like 2,000 new users yesterday, like that works pretty well. Let's do more of this. So I remember saying to one of the guys in our team, it was about 6 of us, I said, reach out to as many people as you can, and we're all just sending emails, cold calling, etc. And yeah, literally through cold calling, I managed to bring on board Cristiano Ronaldo to be our ambassador for 2014, which was great, and things obviously built pretty quickly from there.
So there's a bit of time in there where it was before influencer market was such a market, and before these people as content creators probably knew their value. Would you say?
Yeah. The cost for that 1-year deal with Ronaldo, global image rights, posting 3 times a week, promoting it twice a week to Facebook, Twitter, etc., is less than what one single tweet would cost now. So, and I think that his team recognised that. I think they were like, this is an interesting direction that things are going. And that allowed them to build a case study from our relationship to then go and say, look at how big an audience we drove over. I mean, at the time, I think he had 100 million followers at the time, and throughout that year, we got over 1 million people from Ronaldo. So he just would then take that to other brands and say, we can tweet about your product, and here's proof of the conversion. Right. So unfortunately, I should have negotiated like a percentage of his future revenues from social media influencing strategies, but I didn't.
So that was Sport Lobster.
That was
How
Sport
long
Lobster.
did you run Sport Lobster for? And what kind of extent did you grow that business to?
It was 2013 when we first went live, I think it was. Ronaldo 2014, then after that it was the NBA, the NFL. We did partnerships, we co-branded product with Emirates Airlines, etc. We grew to millions of users. We had over 500 what we called verified accounts. Premier League football teams through to exactly. Raised over £20 million for that business, but that was a crazy journey. Like front facing, people were like, "Congratulations, it's amazing what you're doing," but it was hell behind the scenes. So it was the first time I'd raised significant funding and took on money on pretty horrible terms with, hindsight's a good thing, and probably people that I wouldn't go into business again with.
Right, okay.
And so it was a really challenging journey. It was exhausting. It was frustrating, but there was a lot of learnings that I took from that. But I actually spent more time fighting. There was fighting between shareholders and more time sort of defending things than actually, running the business. So it was.
And you said to me that there were times where they were due another payment, and you had to make a decision as to whether you were going to go their way or your way. Is that and the
so I mean, board members or specific shareholders, if they had, we'd agreed to bring on investment where we draw down on a monthly basis. Gets to the 25th or something, and they catch up for a coffee, and they're like, that suggestion I made to you a few weeks ago, like, you've not done that yet, and I'm like, yeah, it's not right for us, and of course this individual has invested in multiple different businesses, and so they're dipping in and out of different things, and they've got an idea, and.
But you're in it every day.
And I'd be like, yeah, that's not the right thing, and he's like, well, that next tranche is due tomorrow. I'm like, oh, right. So we've got 3 days to pay until we pay salaries, and you're telling me, unless I do what you're telling me to do, you're not going to give us the money. I'm like, well, yeah. So yeah, it was very, that went on for a long time. That was tough.
And you then left that business and you put in provisions. We'll kind of get into that in a bit, but provisions that you made in your current
Recast,
business to mitigate against that, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I lost control of that business pretty early on in terms of Sport Lobster, and so taking those learnings with into Recast. I mean, that Sport Lobster was bought out by one of the shareholders. I moved to Dubai because they're a Dubai-based investor and they wanted to build the next phase of the business from Dubai, and I had a vision for that, which is actually what Recast is today. But they weren't aligned with that, so we eventually agreed to disagree, and I stepped away from the business. I walked away from the business, and there's still legal matters, which even last week, I mean, we're concluding now. That was really? In 2018. Yeah. So that's So it's been crazy. And so when I stepped away from the business and I started Recast, in fact, it was supposed to be, so we have an in-app currency that facilitates micropayments to watch content. And at the time, there was a lot of initial coin offerings around cryptocurrency, etc. So the plan was to do an initial coin offering and go and raise tens of millions. And just when we finished the technical white paper, the market just fell away and ICOs were dead and nothing was happening there. So back to the sort of normal fundraising route.
Was that lucky at that time? Timing wise, because if you'd gone through with that, would that have been detrimental to the startup of the business?
Don't know. I mean, like pros and cons probably to it. I mean, for me, I was sharing some of the sort of crazy stuff of Sport Lobster journey. I mean, I never look back and have any sort of regrets or like, oh, I wish that would have happened or I wish that would have happened. Like, it is what it is. So I have no idea, but we are where we are.
See, before we move on from Sport Lobster, I know that you've put provisions into your current business
Recast,
when you're with regards to kind of raising investment.
Yeah.
What was the biggest learning, or what was the biggest thing that you went, right, I'm not going to do that again? What Sport Lobster was it that? Was it losing control?
Yeah, it was definitely the fundraising. Yeah, I mean, so like I said, the ICO didn't go ahead, and so we just went traditional route. And there was a couple of investors that I met with, ultra high net worths, who offered me millions of dollars to kick Recast off, but they had terms attached to it, and I was like, nah, I'm not taking it. And they were like, you've shown me a presentation, like you have nothing, and you're not taking like the $3 million. And I'm like, but you want to draw down in this way. You want these controls, this veto. You're already telling me you think I should go straight after the Premier League, which is totally wrong, et cetera, et cetera. So like, I'm just not doing it.
The Recast team are laughing, by the way.
Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, they know how like I operate. So I turned away investment for a long time, and we actually left. We're living in Dubai. We left Dubai. We couldn't afford to stay there anymore, and I'd been approached for a number of opportunities. And I was like, no, I'm not taking them. Let's move back to Scotland, more affordable living, and let me continue to try to raise the funding. And when I set up the business, I set it up so that there was controls in place for me so that I was in a better position for negotiation when it came to raising the funding. So as an example, I've got 3 votes for every share that I hold, whereas having now raised over £14 million, and another round just recently closed on top of that, I still retain those controls. So at shareholder level, the board is not court unless I'm in attendance. And there's all these things basically to be like, you can't do anything unless I say so. And that's hard to do when you're raising that kind of money.
I was going to say harder to secure funding. But before we move on from the £3 million that you turned down, can you tell a story about when your wife phoned you from Tesco as you just turned down the £3 million?
Yeah.
And your wife phoned you from Tesco and the card had been declined.
Yeah. Oh my God, I've just got a little bit emotional because honestly, it was a crazy time in our lives. Like we were so skinned, and we moved back to Scotland, and so I was like consulting. So I was just doing like bits like day work here and there, and it was the end of August 2019. Rent had just been paid from some of the consulting work I'd been doing. And I was like, oh, what's the next piece of work I'm going to do? And basically, a lot of the stuff I was doing at that time was helping people fundraise or put their pitch deck together. And Karen called me and she said, she's like, I'm at Tesco, my card's been declined. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll wire you some money. How much do you need? And she's like, 50 quid. And I was like, okay. So right, I went into my bank account and I was like, oh shit. So I had 80 quid. So I was like, okay, well, there's 50, which she's spending right now. So that means we're down to 30. And you just turned down $3 million of investment. Dollars, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd been in London a couple of weeks earlier.
It must have been tempting to go, right, give it, like...
honestly, that journey with Sport Lobster, there was a lot of really good things out of it, but it was really horrible as well. And I was like, it's just not worth... Recast as an idea is so good, it has so much potential.
Yep.
Do I want to put so much effort in over the next... And I know it's going to be years, and lose control from day one? Like, I'm just not willing to do that, so I'll wait. And I actually ended up closing £250,000 instead of the 3 million just to get going and make sure I secured the investment on my terms. And then 6 months later, raised another 1.3 million and then started to build up from that point forward. So, but yeah, it was only from the Tesco moment. It was, well, Karen spoke to me later and said, get a fucking job. Like, you need to get a job. And I was like, it's okay, like, I think we're going to get this here, like, we're going to secure it. And yeah, right enough, it was about 10 days later, I closed the £250,000, very quickly opened a bank account for the business, fortunately through a relationship, because you can't get a bank account that quickly, and money was in 23rd of September, paid myself 25th of September, paid the rent 27th of September.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's funny, because during our third episode, Ricky Nicol was telling us about when he went to register his business. And they said, he walked in and he said, oh, I need to register this business. And they said, right, okay, it's 27 quid. And he was like, oh, shit, I've only got 27 quid. He was like, where am I going to get 27 quid? And then he had to, he never told his wife, but he was like, I'll spend the 27 quid, but I need to make it back. And this is 19, whenever he was registering this business. Yeah. But he was like, where am I going to get the £27 from to replace the money that I'm spending? Yeah. So it's amazing that all these stories of people who have kind of went right down to zero to then do what you've done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I look back and I think, wow, that was mental. What were you thinking? But no, I'm glad that I sort of dug my heels in and just my gut. I knew it was the right thing to do. So yeah, it's the main. If anybody asks me for any advice, the one thing I always say is just listen to your gut. And so I knew it was worth doing.
The other thing that really jumped at me when we were having a conversation, you were telling me this story, was the fact that you were being offered multi-million-dollar investment for an idea, a presentation. No team, no MVP, no like nothing yet to actually show. It was just, here's the idea. Do you think that was down to the credibility of yourself, or do you think it is your like what you've done before, or the idea? What do you think it was that made people go, I'll give you that money?
Don't know. I was just winging it. No. I think those that I was talking to, you know, and you have to speak to the right people in terms of they'd have to understand the space that you're operating in and the potential there. So I think that the reality is that the potential for Recast is major, and I think that being able to say, look, this is what I did with Sport Lobster, and be very transparent about where the challenges were. And, you know, we spoke about the challenges with the corporate structure and shareholders, but that's, by the way, I'm not blaming anyone. There are many things, many mistakes I made, and there were so many contributing factors to that business not succeeding. Could be timing, could be, I had a lack of experience there, less experience than I do now. And I've got less experience now than I will do in a year's time. But like all those things, taking that into those conversations, I think they were like, okay, well, you've got relationships across the world of sport. And I was fortunate through that journey to develop relationships at the top of sport and media. And
was that through your business journey or sporting journey?
Through what, sorry?
So was that through your business journey or sporting journey?
It was all business. It was all business.
It's not like contacts that you'd made while you were playing football.
No, it was all. I didn't make it far enough in football to have those relationships. I had a couple contacts, but it was within Sport Lobster that I developed those relationships. And so, you know, saying like these are the people that I can go to, and this is what the strategy is, and having been able to prove to them that I've been able to build not me personally, but build a tech platform and find the right people to do that. Fortunately meant that they had faith in me being able to do it, and then, you know, made those offers, which I then declined.
So it brings us on to Recast. Now, for the people in the room, people who are watching, what is it?
It's a streaming platform where all the content is monetized through micropayment. So kind of think of it as, simply put, like YouTube. So anybody, you know, what we call them publishers. First, we started in sports, so sports rights holders uploading their content, whether it's on demand or it's live, and they set up a price per view. And the fans who want to watch that, they are earning or buying credits. Kind of like if you fly with an airline, you earn or buy miles, and then you spend those to, you know, upgrade or you reduce your costs for the flight, etc., etc. Recast is much the same. So you earn and you can buy these credits, and then you're spending those credits to watch the content that's published by those publishers. So we don't buy rights, we don't upload content, we don't produce content. We're a platform to help those rights holders unlock value from their content.
Do you compete with YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, or do those platforms complement what you do?
I often talk about how they complement what we do, although a lot of content is coming over from YouTube to Recast. If we take World Curling Federation, many organizations back in the day used to get broadcast deals. Not so much anymore, because more people are unsubscribing from those traditional broadcasting platforms. And so those broadcasters are pouring more of their investment into NBA, Premier League, NFLs of this world. So all of a sudden, UK athletics and British judo, etc. Like, well, where do we turn to monetize? And so, or how do we even get our content out? So they have historically just turned to YouTube. We'll put it on YouTube, and then people can watch it. But then they're not making any money. And so as that has increasingly sort of happened, our solution is allowing them to make money from the same content they used to not make money from. So World Curling used to just put all their live streams on YouTube and make zero. And over the past 16 months, they've made over £200,000 at an average of 80 pence a view on our platform. And from fans of, I think we're available in over 100 countries. I think they've had viewership from like 85 countries. So
and that's World Curling.
World Curling Federation, yeah. So they, Yeah, so we are. There is content that's starting to move away from YouTube. I mean, to start with, because people think, oh, another platform, I need to hire another person, I need to think about new content, etc. Like, just get started and familiarize yourself with the platform. And then when they start doing it, and then they see in their wallet that they've made some money, because when the fan spends the credits, they convert back to money, and we take a cut, and they're going, oh. Literally, I think Ian Poulter made more money in the first day on Recast than he ever has done on YouTube. So he was like, "Well, that's all right." So then all of a sudden they go, "Well, what else can we do here?" So, in that way, we are starting to take some of their, some of the content that would go on their platform. Of course, they've got significant scale. But when people say to us, "Should we just stop using YouTube?" and we're like, "No, not at all. Like, that's the top of your funnel: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, etc." Engage with engaging short form content, or however you want to, whatever you want that to be, but then you're pulling people into your product, which mostly has been live sports on our platform so far.
And the OTT side, so the actual kind of over the top content or behind the scenes stuff, is that still as much of a focus, or is it more the live stuff, the kind of
more live? So I historically thought that we'd see a lot of value being generated from like clips behind the scenes, highlights, etc. But naturally, a lot of that content is just really readily available on social, and so it's and also, let's be honest, if you've got a 1 minute clip and you're making 1 penny from that, okay, great if you've got loads of views, but that versus a live stream and it's being charged at £5, obviously, you don't need as many viewers there to already start generating significantly more money than the on-demand content will generate for you.
And the more expensive production stuff, like the Man City documentary, stuff like that, that's stuff that then gets even more eyeballs, more money,
so some of them,
so
definitely live has been the most valuable, but for City, they've got City Studios. I mean, they've got phenomenal facilities to be able to produce a lot of regular content. They their docu-series that used to go out on, I think the first season was on Amazon Prime or something, and then it was on City Plus, and now last year it was on City Plus and on Recast. So you either subscribe to City Plus to get access to all their content, but not everybody wants to subscribe to loads of different things. So those fans can come into Recast and pay-per-view or micropay on watching that content. And with that quality of production, it does well. I think, I was telling someone the other day that we've got Amazon Prime, Apple Plus, Netflix, what other ones are there? Disney Plus, etc. And recently we were like, should we cut one of these off? And I don't know, maybe Apple Plus, and I think it's $5 a month or something. And that mindset, fast forward a couple of days, I'm like, oh, this movie looks pretty good. Oh, £10. Let's watch it. So the thing is, if you want something, you pay for it in that moment. But this we're flooded with subscriptions. So I think that we're. I had a call last week, well, a few weeks ago now, with up until recently, the CEO of. He was the CEO of Hulu Plus, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Star Plus, Michael Paul. And he was like, it's a really interesting model. Like, while the whole world has been zigging towards subscriptions, like, you've zagged. And he's like, that could be quite fortuitous for you. And I was like, it was the intention. Like, we we expected that would happen. So
that people would get sick of having to pay for another subscription.
And for us, like, we actually see ourselves as to start with, it's sport, and we're seeing live and stuff. But what we've got is a micropayment wallet where a fan can basically just like micropay on content. And by the way, I mentioned that they can watch an ad, or they can give their data, they can do all these things to get these credits. But why does that need to stop with video? The number of times someone sends me a link to an article in the Financial Times, and I'll go through, and then it pops up and says subscribe for £300 a year, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Back again and try and figure out a way to try and find the article. But if I could just spend 20 pence right there and then and read the article, like, I'd do it, and they'd unlock a lot of money. So for us, and that's never been feasible historically, because the charges that the payment gateways or networks will charge, if you like Stripe as an example, if you use Stripe to make a payment, they'll take 20 pence on initially, and then a percentage on top of that. So obviously nobody can charge 20 pence because they're not making anything. And so with our in-app currency, that allows those micropayments to just happen without there being this initial 20 pence that someone takes. We just take a 15% at the moment, but soon to be 20% cut on every single transaction. So
the ease of it is another reason why you, like, if it was a case of, right, subscribe and pay 20 pence to read this, and you had to fill in your card details,
forget it.
But the fact that you've got that wallet sitting there, that it's an ease of access, ease of use, that people can just go in and kind of consume that content, probably consume more content than they planned on. Imagine it was like 2p a TikTok. My wife would spend about 300 quid a night.
Yeah.
So, do you think that the microtransaction side is, because remember you likened it to like, was it Roblox or one of the gaming platforms where people, we're kind of shifting towards, it's a lot more normal to spend more money for content or to enhance your content through.
Yeah, I think it's exactly like it's bringing like rewards, gamification, like that kind of stuff together. But most of all, like it's just transparency. I mean, a lot of people don't really think about it, but they're worth thousands of dollars a year to YouTube, but they're not getting anything to that. They're not getting any of that, and all that value is going to the publishers. So if they can go on and onto our platform, and there's a very transparent value exchange, particularly younger consumers who want to, they understand in-app currencies, micropayments, being rewarded through gamification, etc. That's very natural for them, and we often use the term like the fluid fan. In Q4 last year, I read something the other day that in the US, for the OTT sort of subscription platforms, they acquired something like 40 million plus new subscribers, and only 7 million of them were retained by the end of the quarter. So, that's not a sustainable model. And that's because people will be like, oh, I want to watch that. Oh, I need to subscribe. Okay, I'll subscribe. And then I cancel right after I finish watching it. So,
yeah, totally.
And that, by the way, don't forget, that organization has probably paid a shit ton of money to acquire that user in the first place.
I can think of a couple that, like, when you get a series that's exclusively available on like Paramount Plus or whatever, but you got a 7-day free trial, and you're like, right, we're going to watch it in 7 days.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that fluid fan and that younger consumer, like that's just more natural to them. I mean, they understand that. I mean, there was someone that said to me once that their 8-year-old didn't know what real money was, but they understand in-app currencies.
No, definitely. My son doesn't understand when he's watching real telly, you can't skip the advert. He's like, skip it, Dad. I'm like, you can't skip it. It's real. It's real. You run a tech business based in Edinburgh.
Correct.
Is
in the corner.
Just around the corner.
Just
in the most minted office in Edinburgh, by the way. Is there a reason that you based the business in Edinburgh, not London or somewhere further afield where it's more kind of a tech scene, if you like, than...
Yeah, a number of reasons. So I mentioned when we left Dubai because we couldn't afford to stay there, and so I was running Sport Labs out of London, and great tech scene, but I was traveling a lot, so I thought it'd be good for us to come to Edinburgh, where my wife's from, and for her to have the support of with the kids as well, with her mum, so I could continue to travel without it being very lonely for her.
Yep.
But also, let's not forget that there's a lot of talent here. There's great tech startups that come out of here. There's talent that comes out of Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee, etc. And quite frankly, it's just where I wanted to live. So that was the main driver behind the decision. But the benefit was that, my mother-in-law's here and they've got access to good talent.
Really, and the Edinburgh tech scene is far more on the up of the last 5-10 years than what it previously would have been when you were setting up Sport Lobster.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even consider Edinburgh, to be honest with you, and I've not. A lot of this is new for me in terms of the Edinburgh tech scene. So over the past couple of years, going to networking events and meeting people, and a lot of people were saying to me, "Oh, this is how it's developed and this is how it's evolved." And funny enough, a lot of people, because they hear me speaking, they just assume that I'm born and raised in Edinburgh. So even some people will be like, "Oh, this place or that place." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." They're like, "You've been living under a rock." I'm like, "No, in the desert in Dubai, actually." But so yeah, there's a lot that I'm still learning a lot about, even about the tech scene here as well, and still meeting new people. Whereas I think a lot of people that are in the tech scene, they're very familiar with each other already. So that's all quite new for me as well. And I go down to London pretty regularly, and of course a lot of the big brands, etc., are based there. So it's easy to just jump on a train and go down and come back up.
We mentioned your team. You are consistently voted, was it number 1 place to work in Scotland, number 16 in the UK, or something along those lines, like best place to work, basically?
Yeah.
What is that? Is that the culture? Is that the office space? Is it the job that they're doing? What do you think makes it the best place to work in the UK?
Something that's really important to me is that the people that work at Recast care. I mean, I think it was a few weeks ago. Let's put a few giggles already here. a few weeks ago, and I've said this a few times before, even with Sport Lobster days, I'm like, look, you know, if you're not happy, let's have a chat and figure out what's going on. But if you don't like your job, like the door's not locked, like go and find a job that you actually enjoy and you care about. And I think that the fact that I really try to pull together a culture and a group of people that are like, yeah, I feel passionate about this. I love this. And don't get me wrong, like that can go through phases, and people will have, you know, their own personal matters, etc., etc. But overall, if people feel passionate about what they're doing, then the quality will come through, the effort will come through, and when you go through, as startups do, like a roller coaster, then people go on that journey as well. You know, I think that's so. I think that feeling of being in it together and believing in driving like a change, the purpose, you know, for why we exist is hopefully one of the reasons why we've had those
That's what I was
awards.
going to ask you. What impact do you think that's actually had on the success of the business and the growth of the business? The fact that you've built that culture and that team.
I mean, it's everything. I mean, you know, it just we wouldn't exist without. There's quite a few people here, Jay and Mel. I mean, they've been here since like day one almost. Like, right. You know, it's I think Jay was number 1, Mel number 4 or 5. Like, you know, and so it's phenomenal to have shared that journey with them and the others. And if there wasn't that, one of our values is resilience. I mean, if there wasn't that resilience, like you'd be turning people a lot quicker because you go through challenging times, etc., etc. So, you know, having that buy-in and that commitment from them, people are everything. I mean, I can't do any of all this, like this is the stuff that they're all doing in terms of the code and the marketing and everything, right? All those things that they're doing. And initially you start with that. I often give this in a sort of analogy of like starting with a big boulder at the bottom of a hill, and you're like, and it's got everything in there, like marketing, legals, branding, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, and it's so heavy at first, and you push it up, and before you know it, if you just get it up, and then someone comes and helps it gets a bit lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And then thankfully you've got, like, you know, all the best people around you that are pushing that, and it feels a hell of a lot lighter. So
brilliant. It's a nice analogy. Final question before we move to Q&A. What are the plans for the business? What's the plans for the future of the business? Is it a plan to exit, to grow? Where do you see Recast going, in what direction?
I mean, our focus is always the part, like, driving that change. Like, I feel really passionate about. I mean, a lot of this actually stemmed from when I first created Sport Lobster. I'm like, it's so messed up that there's actually just not. It's not easier to access this stuff, and it's all spread out over the place. And how can it? And particularly with my passion for sport, and having to subscribe to 5 different things, and it costs £100 a month or something like that, I might forget it. So I feel really, really passionate. I've always felt passionate about that. So I feel passionate about seeing that all the way through. And let's be honest, if someone comes along and offers to acquire the business, if the number's right, then the answer would probably be yeah. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the journey, because hopefully if it's the right partner, and I'm speaking about the number there, but if they're the right partner that can help take it on for us to realize that vision and drive that big change, then great. Like, if someone comes along and says, here's the number, in fact, we had a significant offer in November, and I said no initially, because I didn't agree with their strategy. And by the way, I could have sailed off into the sunset, but I was like, nah, don't. I just didn't agree with the strategy. And then they spent time taking us through the strategy, etc. And it seemed a lot more interesting. And we didn't get there in the end. Just a number of things were there, the economic climate, etc., etc. But I think that for me, I just really want to continue to drive that change forward, because I feel passionate about both sides of the marketplace. Like those. It's amazing that World Curling have made that money, and I know that there's a number of other national governing bodies who are about to go bust, and if they can just start making money and that sport can survive, and then they can put that back into grassroots and kids can get active, and there's all that everything goes from there. So I don't know where the journey will take us.
A big need for more content. So I'm a boxing fan. Boxing's a Saturday night sport, and from Sunday to Friday, if you are a passionate boxing fan,
exactly. If you're a passionate boxing fan, because and that's where.
Same as a passionate curling fan.
I had a call before I came here. I had a call with the the CMO of MasterCard, and they've got a number of things that's to do with they've got 10 passions they focus in on, and like well-being and all that kind of stuff. And he gave an example, and I was like, well, yeah, but let's not forget that good content is also subjective, because like I don't really care about watching boxing.
Yeah.
But you do. You love it. Someone else might love watching someone knit. Okay, well, good for them. Like so, and they will see value in that. Yeah. And the person who is knitting or teaching someone to knit, like they deserve to receive value for that. They deserve to receive value for that.
Yeah.
And if that's 1,000 people, you know, everybody talks about scale in this world. Even on the last call, we were talking about scale, and I was like, let's not focus about that. Focus about the relationship between that person who's creating the content, and if it's 2 people, 2,000 people, 2 million people, 20 million people, that connection, that's valuable. Let them unlock that value.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much. Thank
Thanks.
you for.
Thank you.